What keeps you going when life feels uncertain, painful, or unfinished? When justice seems delayed and suffering feels unfair, where does hope come from? The book of 1 Thessalonians was written to believers facing pressure, confusion, and fear. Yet it is filled with encouragement, gratitude, and confidence. This letter reminds us that faith is not only about the past or the present, but about a future that gives meaning to everything we endure now. Overview. 1 Thessalonians is one of the earliest letters written by the Apostle Paul. It was sent to a young church that had embraced the gospel in the middle of opposition and hardship. Paul had been forced to leave Thessalonica sooner than planned, and he worried about how the believers were holding up under persecution. The letter reflects Paul's deep affection for this community. He begins with thanksgiving, praising their faith, love, and endurance. Rather than correcting major errors, Paul writes to encourage, reassure, and strengthen them. He reminds them that their suffering is not meaningless and that their faith has already become an example to others. A central concern in the letter is the return of Christ. Some believers were anxious about those who had died before Jesus returned. Paul addresses their fears directly, offering hope rooted in God's promises rather than speculation or fear. Historical and social context. Thessalonica was a major port city and a center of trade, politics, and Roman loyalty. Public allegiance to the emperor and traditional gods was expected. Choosing to follow Christ often brought social exclusion, economic loss, and hostility. The believers in Thessalonica were mostly new converts with little background in Jewish scripture. Their faith was tested almost immediately. Paul writes to affirm that suffering is not a sign of failure, but often a mark of faithful commitment. This context helps explain the tone of the letter. Paul speaks like a concerned parent, offering comfort, clarity, and steady guidance in the face of uncertainty. Key themes in 1 Thessalonians. Faith that works. Paul celebrates a faith that produces action, love, and endurance. Belief is not passive, but visible in daily life. Encouragement in suffering. The letter reassures believers that hardship does not mean abandonment. God is present and purposeful even in difficulty. The hope of Christ's return. Paul emphasizes the future return of Christ as a source of comfort and strength, not fear. Living a holy life. Believers are called to live with integrity, self-control, and respect in a watching world. Community and mutual support. Faith is strengthened through encouragement, accountability, and care for one another. Watchfulness and readiness. Believers are encouraged to live alert, grounded, and prepared, not anxious or distracted. Key passages in 1 Thessalonians. 1 Thessalonians 1 verse 3, faith, love, and hope working together. 1 Thessalonians 2 verse 8, sharing not only the gospel, but life itself. 1 Thessalonians 3 verses 12 to 13, growing in love and holiness. 1 Thessalonians 4 verses 13 to 18, hope concerning those who have died. 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 8, living with faith, love, and hope as protection. 1 Thessalonians 5 verses 16 to 18, rejoicing, praying, and giving thanks always. 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 23, God's work in making believers whole. Relevance Today. 1 Thessalonians speaks to anyone waiting for answers, relief, or resolution. It reminds believers that faith does not remove hardship, but it gives hardship meaning. Hope is not denial of pain, but confidence in God's future. The letter also challenges believers to live faithfully now, even while waiting. Daily obedience, love, and perseverance matter. Faith is lived one day at a time, supported by community and anchored in God's promises. In a culture marked by anxiety and uncertainty, 1 Thessalonians offers calm assurance. The future belongs to God, and that truth changes how we live today. Closing thought. 1 Thessalonians reminds us that hope is not wishful thinking. It is grounded in God's faithfulness. When life feels unfinished and answers feel distant, this letter calls believers to stand firm, love deeply, and wait with confidence. Faith endures because hope looks beyond the present and trusts the God who holds the future.